The meeting of the Plaquemines Port Harbor and Terminal District is now called to order. The machine is open for roll call. Bear with us. Got a rookie up here. Let the record reflect that don't turn that off so fast.
I'm sorry.
That all 7 members are here. Commissioner Edwards and Champagne were unable to attend. We'll all rise. Commissioner Schultz will do the prayer, and then Commissioner McCarty will do the pledge.
Let us pray. We take this moment to acknowledge Almighty God and thank Him for our bountiful blessings, especially for the parish's natural resources. We give thanks to God for our brave and courageous men and women in our military who daily risk their lives to protect our precious freedom. And we pray that for our world leaders to know how to obtain world peace. We pray that this government body comprised of both council and administration will always serve our parish with honesty, humility, and equality to all. And as this government body gathers here today, we pray for the wisdom to know right from wrong and the courage to do that which is right. Amen.
Amen.
For the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you all for coming. I got to tell you, I read a study this morning that says people who wear hearing aids are less likely to have advanced dementia. So I have my hearing aids in, and if I can remember to do it every day, I'll do it. And if not, I'm going to keep forgetting a lot of stuff. So, anyway, I thought it was a good article, and it says, and it may be true. So, today we're here for a mid-year budget review. Director Tillotson, I'm going to turn the podium over to you. All the mics are live. Is that how we're going to do it today? All the mics are live, commissioners.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Port Commissioners who are here today. And I also want to thank my staff. I mean, we were able to close out our 22 audit and within a couple of weeks reconcile 99% of the hits from that audit while we were actually putting this mid-year budget review together. So it was an interesting process. I want to thank Mr. Tommy Surpass under our professional services agreement. He was instrumental in getting the numbers together, and the staff really did a great job in helping to review everything and put the report together. So what the report that you have in front of you is the presentation that's on the board. It's 8 slides basically that we're going to go through. And the agenda is there on slide 2. Those are the things that we're going to talk about. Behind the presentation that each of you have includes the expense details and the revenue details. There are a couple of small variances in there at the total level. I mean, if we need to talk about that, you know, I can point out what page and where to go. But I think what you'll find in this presentation is that the Port has had a good year last year, and is on a path to have another good year this year, and we're positioned to do some good things in the future. So if we can go to the first slide, what I'd really like to just do is just kind of put our business outlook on the screen. So, you know, first off, you know, I'd like to point out that, you know, our major commodities handled included coal, agriculture, petroleum, and then we obviously have Venture Global coming online with LNG as early as next year. So we, in 22, we landed at about 47 million tons, and we're on a path this year to land at about 53 million tons. And we confirmed today that if we hit 53 million tons, it's going to put us on at around number 11, the 11th largest tonnage port in the United States. So we were 12 last year. And if you look at this last bullet here, the first block, once LNG is fully online and we're producing 30 million tons of LNG, we're going to be well over 85, approaching 90 million tons a year. I estimate that that's going to put Plaquemines Port in between number 4 and number 6 tonnage ports in the United States. That is very significant. I'm excited about it, and I think that it's going to be a great thing for the port because revenue follows tonnage. The next item is if you just look at a 3-year path, it's kind of odd to look at, but 20 and 21, the port's revenue was 10.6 million, 22, 58.9 million, and in 23, we're estimating about 41.5. The big jump is partially due to GASB 87 rule changes on how the revenue is classified. And so it starts to normalize itself this year in 23, so we should land somewhere in the neighborhood of a total of about 41.5 million dollars in revenue, and our expenses are starting to creep up a little bit, you know, with our, you know, the full-time operations of the ferries, the ferry payroll, and other services around the boat operations. I'd also like to just kind of highlight that, you know, Venture Global's CapEx is estimated at $21 billion, which is the largest port project of its kind in the world. I think it's pretty significant. And then we have some projects within the port that's equaling about $57 million, which will take place over the next few years, from the water booster station to the ferry boat landing to the new build on the ferry. So we're excited about those items, but what I will say to the council is we're being very cautious, and we're tracking with our partners at DOTD to ensure that we do all of those projects right, and that we maximize any outside funding that we can get in terms of grants here at the state level and the federal level. Yeah, let me get through this slide, and so why don't I get through each slide, and then I'll open it up for questions after each slide. So the last item here is, and we're starting to think about the economic impact analysis. We're probably 60% done with the market analysis, and that's going to help to feed our economic impact analysis. But based on the port's estimates in talking with all of the tenants, the ports district represents about 3,400 direct and indirect jobs that are here in Plaquemines Parish. You know, and that represents an estimated $9 million in taxes and about $4.5 million in estimated lease taxes. And then, as you will see on our last slide here, Plaquemines Port is forecasted right now to pay $1.7 million in interagency fees to the parish. So that, I'll open the floor up for any questions.
I have one. And just, can you explain to me on this, where you talk about CapEx, where it says Venture Global's $21 billion FID. What is that? What is FID?
That's their final investment date.
Okay. It says the ITEP expires Phase 1, 2024. What does that mean?
So it's a very complicated subject. I think their ITEP for the pipeline will already be active, and they'll be paying taxes on that. And correct me if I'm wrong, I think the first ITEP expires next year, but they can extend it 5 years.
If we vote on it, if we vote to extend it.
Right. But one of the things I'd like to point out, though, is when we look at having a $21 billion investment here in our port, which is the largest of its kind in the world, you know, I get, I mean, we want to be very careful with the use of ITEPs, but attracting Venture Global to Plaquemines Parish is a huge thing. It's a game changer, and it is going to put us on a path where we will be within range of the top 2 or 3 tonnage ports in the United States. So that was part of enticing them to come here. So that's my thoughts. Yeah. So the next slide just really kind of puts some perspective in for if you look at the bar graph. I just wanted to really be able to show where oil and gas has gone over the last few years. It's really dropped off. I think we all know that. And then the line graph in orange represents where the port's revenue path, you know, and you know, we're going to talk about it in this presentation on what that means to the parish in terms of, you know, interagency fees that the port will be paying, how it's going to affect taxes going forward, you know, how it's going to affect what we do as a port entity with our partners in terms of creating, you know, donations to help the parish in different ways. So this trend really represents, you know, where we're going in the future, and it really is it's a great story for the parish, and I can tell you that it is catching a lot of other ports by surprise, and they're wondering, you know, what's going on in Plaquemines. So we're the fastest growing port in the state of Louisiana, and I say in the United States. Ms. McCarty, you had a question.
I was just trying to find an example of some of the interagency fees. Just curious.
We'll get to that slide. So that's going to be, we're going to talk about that in detail because that was a budget variance in '22. That was a hit on our financial audit. And so we're actually going to talk about how that's allocated, how it's broken up, how it was budgeted last year and previous years, what we learned, and what we're going to do differently moving forward. So we're going to get to that. So the next slide. So the next slide, you know, I think what we really want to highlight here is in 2021, because of GASB 87 rules, our net assets, actually we had to make an adjustment from 63 million to 70.1 million in '22. And then I should also point out that, and I talked about it on the first slide, the GASB 87 new rules represented about $17 million in adjustments for 2023. I'm sorry, for 2022. And that had to do with our lease reporting and taking the ferry zone as an asset for a full year in 20. So it was almost like a ferry acquisition. So there were some financial reporting rules that we had to follow, and so that change is really what pushed us up to 58 million in revenue. In terms of expenses, our primary driver was payroll and fuel for the ferries. Our net asset driver was basically taking over the ferries. And in 2023, you know, we are going to have to do a budget amendment, you know, for the ferry boat landing, the grants and the ports match. So that's something that we're looking at now because we've started discussions with DOTD. Any questions?
Oh, we can have your comments at the end. Well, just some clarification. I know some of the council members need.
Point of order. This is supposed to be a budget meeting. I came to listen to a budget variance meeting.
Can we finish
And
it?
see the budget. We're not talking about budget. I appreciate all of his comments, they're valid comments, but that's not the purpose of this meeting.
Okay, thanks.
Okay.
Steve?
So the next slide is our 5-year capital improvement plan, and the actual 5 items, the 4 items that you see here on the top are actually items that are in that plan today. The culvert replacement, the first item, is something that we're verifying how much more we need to do there, if we need to spend any more funds. The B3 relocation, we've actually put that on hold while we work through our master planning process. The water booster station, with the total budget was $11.9 million. That was for phase 1. It was determined in the fourth quarter of last year that the 6-mile extension was not enough to extend the water lines, so there's a phase 2 that's estimated at an additional $9.6 million. Both of those items are on the Port Priority Fund list to be allocated to the port. All of the funds are not available right now, and it is, an ongoing item that we're working closely with DOTD on. Again, the ferry landings, the estimated cost $14 million. We know today we have approximately $6.8 million in bond money and grant money. We just released a grant application on Tuesday night for about $5.9 million, and that includes a match of about $1.2 million. And I want to thank each of the commissioners who signed that letter of support to go with that application, and we feel confident that we are going to be successful because of the case that we made. We know that we're going to finish the market analysis by the end, no later than the end of September. That is not included in the economic impact analysis is not included in the $100,000 that you see from master plan here. So we're completing the market analysis. The economic impact analysis will follow behind somewhere in the neighborhood of September, October of this year. Our goal, though, is to have a completed market analysis document and a completed economic impact analysis by the end of this year, and have that in to share that with the board, and those 2 documents will be key to us putting our master plan together, which will include a comprehensive plan for what we want to do over the next 5 years, to include what we want to do with the container terminal, what we want to do with Port Nickel, and all of the other sites and facilities that have business development capabilities. Next.
Why we postpone the B3 relocation?
We're postponing that because today what we were going to do was we were going to put it right in the middle of between Belle Chase Marine and between the port security dock that we have a grant to build. And we were going to have 4 facilities spread out that was basically going to eat up very key Batcher waterfront space, where if we look at it from a master plan point of view, combine them all, put them on one location, we could open up somewhere in the neighborhood of at least 2,000 linear feet of more berth space for more port growth. Instead of spreading them out, we're looking at putting them together and having a single bridge over the levee that allows everybody to use that bridge, but to get to all of those locations. And so our security boats and the support boats will all be co-located in a single area, making us more efficient. So it's really all about, looking at the big picture and not just, moving a tack on a map.
All right.
Consolidation. Remind me, that 20-inch water line, how far are we going with it?
So it is going to go from, obviously from Alliance, and I think the original plan was 6 miles, but when you look at all of the twists and turns, I think to get out to Port Sulphur, I mean, there's some additional footage in there that once they got on the ground and really measured it, I think the first phase 1, they just missed the measurement, the total measurement. So it's going to run out somewhere in the neighborhood of the Port Sulphur water plant.
That's West Point Ash.
Yes. And I will verify that exact location and make sure that I send that to you via email so that you know exactly where we're going with it. The next item I'd like to point out that we have 24 unfilled positions and we have 66 filled positions. I can tell you that the general positions includes a comptroller and a legal secretary, and it is something that we are actively trying to fill. And then I can't say enough about the ferry positions. We're actively working on scheduling another civil service meeting, and I can tell you that I will be coming to each of you asking you guys for our support, for your support on developing, a plan to make sure that we are able to create a opportunity for qualified individuals to want to come here and work here in Plaquemines Parish. Next slide, please. So this slide is a little busy, but I think what it really shows you is the fund balance, the restricted land purchase balance, and as you can see, the bottom line number there is we have about $4 million available for the land fund. I can tell you that all of the properties that we're purchasing through PSAs was actually budgeted to come out of the operating fund. And so we're well within the range of there, and then any properties expropriated will come from here. If we were to expropriate what we discussed in the 5 items last week, it would be somewhere in the neighborhood of about $1.5 million. So there's ample funds here for us to be able to cover those transactions. And then the next slide, again, it's a little busy, but this is the slide, Ms. McCarty, that you're looking for. So if you start over in the far left column, all of the services are identified. If you look at the next column, this was the 23 PPG budget, and then you see the port's percentage of what the port pays. And then you see a column here where it says due to PPG based on, we're having to adjust based on those numbers. So the port's 23 original budget was a blanket budget that had been used for about 4 years straight, where we just took those same numbers and transferred them year over year over year. And we were never adjusting for the growth, and so in 2022, our auditor Cam Netter, when they came in, they identified that we had a budget variance that we never reported. And when we looked at it, it was accurate. We immediately got on the phone with the parish, and we compared budgets, and we recognized the difference, and we recognized what happened. And Ms. Foss has already prepared an ordinance for next week's meeting that we will introduce to make this budget adjustment so that we take care of this variance moving forward. Any questions on that?
Yeah, Mr. Newsom and I were talking about this earlier. I'm kind of curious on civil service, parish council, and council secretary, why it's so low. Because I don't know about y'all, but about half my time, it's more than half my time as parish council is spent on port-related stuff. Council secretary, she has to prepare the meetings and everything like that. And then civil service, I just ran the numbers based on what you have, and it's anywhere from 18 to 22% of the total. Port employees is 18 to 22% of the total port and parish total employees. So I'm trying to figure out why civil service is so low compared to.
Yeah, I mean, I can look into how that number was put together, but, I mean, you know, Ms. Nelson,
They came up with
yeah, it was,
Because I know this has been almost the same numbers for years, so maybe
Well-
8% back in was accurate, but nowadays with ferry under the council, or under the board and all that, I would expect it a little bit more percent for civil service. And like I said, from council, parish council and council secretary, half of the work we do is sport related at this point.
well, we're definitely open to looking at the process on how we got here and if we need to make any improvements. I definitely understand your concern. I mean, the one comment that I would make is, you know, we're not really getting the level of support from civil service to help us grow. So
I agree with that, but
So
we're
to
not
pay
getting
more,
support on
to
the
make,
parish side either.
well, to pay more, I really would like to ask for more. I mean, we've been looking for a comptroller, director of finance for 7 months.
I agree.
I mean, as a result, I had to spend, a couple of days working on putting the budget variance together myself. And if I had that comptroller, I would have a lot of extra
Oh, I agree with you 100%.
time.
I agree with you 100%, but
Right.
we have the same problem on the parish side. So,
Okay.
we'll look at it.
Okay, we're definitely open to talking about that.
I think that over the years, this was developed in a cooperative effort when Tommy was in finance.
Right.
And with Chambrel. How they came up with those numbers is not something that I'm aware of, but I know that they put forth the effort, and the administration the parish administration agreed and the port administration agreed. I don't know when that was, but that being said, that between now and year's end, there's no reason we can't take a look at that again.
Okay.
And like what Commissioner Schultz says, half his time is on port stuff. Well, I can attest that, yeah, mine is too. But how about everyone else? Does everyone else spend that much time on port? So I think that's what we need to look at. And listen, I don't know that you're going to come up with a very objective number. There's going to be something that we do the best we can based on the information we have. But I would welcome that we looked at that again.
Yeah, thank you so much for that. And I do believe, and I can tell you my staff there along with me, that the port and the parish, for us to be successful, we have to work hand in hand. So we want to make sure that we're doing the right thing. So we're open to having that conversation. And then what I'd like to, since we're talking about this as a variance, so there were 3 variances at the functional level that we had in our expenses. They weren't significant, but I'll make sure that I point them out to you. So on your expense details, if you look at page 7, you'll see that we had a 907. They have it on the backside. There's a $907 variance for insurance, where our insurance premium just came in higher. On page 9,
You mean in the other book?
This.
yes, and the expenses. So the third package back on page 7.
Okay.
Everybody there?
On expenses.
So we budgeted $9,000 for insurance, and the policy came in at $904 over. So it's less than 2%, but I wanted to point that out. On page 9, you'll see under our GIS services, we didn't have anything in the budget, and we spent $659. So it's a very small budget variance. And then on page 11, I'm sorry, not 11, on page 10, we spent $23,400 on cybersecurity. We believe that was misallocated. We think that it should have been under another account. But I will say that we have implemented a very extensive cybersecurity plan, and we put a lot of support and focus on making sure that we've tightened down, all of the access points where somebody could get in and hack us. But we believe that we're looking at how this was allocated. But those were really the three, variances at the functional level that we experienced. And if you have any other questions, we're definitely open.
So, when looking at our line items as to what was budgeted and what is anticipated to be the cost, these are the only three that we found to date.
At the functional, so at the total level.
Total level, right?
Right. If we go into the details, we may see maybe we went over $100 or $500 or $1,000. But when you get to the total, we're well within the range of the budget, and we're tracking for the year.
What about page 11? 38,000 over budget?
31.
So, I'm sorry, you know what, you're right, that was one of the other ones, we had 31,000, you're correct, I'm sorry. That's the cybersecurity one, I didn't have my glasses on, you're right, 31,000. And that's where I'm saying, we have put a lot of focus on cybersecurity, because it is extremely important. It's not about, if you get hacked, it's about when you get hacked. I think the parish was hacked here, was that last year? And because we're growing so fast, and we're attracting a lot of attention to ourselves, we're making sure that we do things like we have a outside billing system for our tariff billing, and we have a enterprise resource system where we do all of our financials. We're bringing that outside system into our ERP to make sure that everything fits under our security umbrella. So. And we're working in the processes with that. So yeah, we've spent some money, and I think that's where there were some misallocations there, and we're looking into that.
Because it was 38,000 for the cybersecurity, 1,600 for computers, but you had over 9,000 from a grant writer. That's why it went to 31.
Yep, that's right. And we think, we believe that it was misallocated, some of it was misallocated, so we're looking into that, and that was really our big one, and I apologize, I was looking at page 10, but it was really page 11.
Well,
But thank you for pointing that out.
page 10 is 23.4.
Right, so it's actually, it's both of those together that, we're looking into those, but I will tell you.
Give us a report on that.
What's that?
Once you look into.
Yeah, we'll have a report on that by next week on, what happened there and if we need to make any budget amendments. Next slide, please. So just talking about, what's next. Somehow that was, is cut off there, but obviously, our first order of business is to execute any budget amendments that we need to execute, and we've pointed them out. I don't think there's anything of real significance there, other than when you look at the parish, the interagency fees, but we've only been charged for the first quarter, so when you look at it for the year, we're actually not over. But we'll make that adjustment. And right now, our fund balance is over $7.2 million. So for us to make these adjustments that we need to make, we're going to be well within in the right range. We're focused on hiring a comptroller, a port comptroller, and that's really going to take a lot of our focus over the next couple of months to make sure we get the right person in place. We're also looking at our organizational leadership, focusing on three things: morale, processes, and technology and innovation together. I call it technovation. I know I'm making up a word there, but what I really want to emphasize is that, a lot of ports have technology, and a lot of ports may have some innovation. But we believe that, we really need to tie those two together, but we need to tie innovation into our processes as well, because I think everybody saw that our biggest challenge is we have a lot of vacancies, and though we believe that we're going to be able to go and fill some of those positions, our new reality may very well be that we may need to be really refining our processes and trying to get more done with less, because that challenge is not going to go away.
In the budget from last year, we never put nothing for IT.
IT is it,
It's a supply.
the IT analyst is one of those 4 positions that are open.
We spent 15, almost 16,000
That's correct. So what
budgeted.
so what we've done with the IT is we've actually moved that under a professional services agreement. We interviewed 3 people for the IT analyst position, and they fell short for what we needed. And part of the problem was what we were paying. We just were not able to get a quality person that we felt like could really make an impact. So we're using a outsourced firm, to help us cover that, and we're tying them into our cybersecurity plan as well. And we're confident that we've really made a good choice there, because it's really working well.
I think that using an outsource company is a better decision than bringing someone in-house, because they're constantly going to be upgrading their training.
Right.
And for us, we would have to stay on top of whether or not the person has kept their certifications.
That's right.
And plus, there's they have they can test the intrusion factor that we have. I'll talk to you more about that later. I have a question about civil service. I just want to know, what is the thought process now on whether or not we're going to try to move civil service to the port?
We obviously we think we need to move to the state.
That's what I'm at.
And we think we need to do that to be competitive with the other ports, particularly the 5 deepwater ports here in the region. But we recognize that not every council member agrees with that, because there's a concern that by us moving outside of the parish into the state, it may expose us to unintended consequences from some of these bills that are out there. So what we're doing is we're really looking at the civil service policy, and what we plan to present to civil service and to this council for approval is a separate port civil service plan from the parish plan that really focuses on, the port's specific needs. Because when you read the policy today, it really it has a lot of gray areas in terms of who who's who. I mean, if certain decisions for the port need to be made by the parish president, that whole appointing authority, I've heard different interpretations, and then the list just goes on through the document. So what we're doing is trying to separate it, bring it to the council for review and approval, and then take it in front of the commission so that we can clear those gray areas up. And if we can do that and make adjustments to certain positions, maybe we don't have to go to the state. Maybe we can stay where we're at. So we do know that if we are going to go to the state, it's likely going to have to be introduced during the session of 24, and probably wouldn't go into effect until 25 if we're successful. So we're looking at all of the options right now. And I mean, look, there's no easy answer, but we're working on it. As a matter of fact, we had a meeting with our council that's handling that for us this morning, and we're confident that we're moving in the right direction. So, any other?
How close are we to hiring a controller?
We're close and far at the same time. I mean, we've interviewed people that we thought were good. Some of those individuals ended up not meeting the qualification for the classified position under civil service. We attempted to go unclassified. We learned that because there's a comptroller position already on civil service books, we couldn't do that. I can say I think that we've reopened that position 3 times since January. So it is a little frustrating, but we're looking at it every day, and it is the #1 priority for us in moving forward. We talked a little bit about the capital plans, the ferry boat, the ferry landings, water booster station. That's going to remain a priority. Process control policy. I can tell you that our process is, we have some good policies, we have some good procedures, but there's a lot to be desired in terms of making sure that we bring them all together and that we're functioning, as a high-performing team. Obviously, we talked about completing the market analysis, starting the economic impact analysis. And then, I mean, I don't know where the year went, but we're a couple of months away from starting the budgeting process for next year. So we plan on starting that on schedule, and we plan on making adjustments in that budget based on what we learned in our 22 audit and then other things that we've identified through the year. And with that, I'd like to conclude and open the floor up to any questions or comments.
Older you get, the quicker they go.
Ain't that the truth?
So I know we spoke about the expenditures. Any things that's out of balance on the revenue side? Are we all?
No, there's no revenue issues whatsoever. The only thing that I would say on the revenue side that I'm not happy with is on our tariff billing for what happens across the water. That process is a little slow, and it's something that we've discussed in the office, and it is an example of what we're doing with Technovation, right? So what we've done is we've tied the pilot system, Mr. Tiz, to the Ports GIS system, so we can now we have a in-office visual view of when a vessel drops anchor in one of the anchorages or at one of the berths, and when they pick up, or when there's a refueling activity that's taking place. And so now we're working on tying those events back to trigger communications to the billing office so that we don't have to wait until it's reported to us 30 or 60 days down the line. More importantly, that our focus is, and maybe in a couple of years, our marine inspectors, instead of being in a truck and driving around and inspecting what's going on in the anchorages and on the berths, they can see what's happening via the AIS feed that goes into Mr. Tiz. And then we're also deploying smart cameras throughout the region as well, so we can see what's going on the cameras too. So that's an example of that Technovation piece that we've really been spending a lot of time focusing on.
So, Dr. Gould, you don't have to sit on your patio listening for anchors out in the river no more.
I got people doing that for me. They
Okay.
call me every time.
For the 2024 budget preparation starting September, are you planning on keeping Mr. Surpass?
We're introducing an ordinance next week to extend. I think he's got about $4,000 left on what we authorized in $50,000. I think we said 6 months. 6 months, 75,000 and extending it by 6 months. What we really need is to bring a comptroller in and put that comptroller under Mr. Surpass for about 3 months, because I tell you, I cannot say enough about Mr. Surpass. He walked into the office, he learned our ERP, Abila. He had never used that system before. He learned it. He finalized the 21 audit that had not been finalized when I joined in December. He started the 22 audit, and he was instrumental, and he finished the 22 audit. He was instrumental in also helping with this budget process. So, and he also completed the adopted budget for 23. So, and he did all of that in a period of about 4 months. I just can't say enough about him. He's just done a tremendous job for us. We appreciate him, and we'd like to keep him around to help bring along the comptroller when we get them on board. And I'd like to just point out also, it's one thing to find a comptroller. There are a lot of comptrollers out there. It's another thing to find a comptroller with government experience, and I think Mr. Schultz, I think you can attest to, maybe 1 in 10 might have government experience.
1 in 10 is generous.
So you're looking for someone to come in and be an apprentice and shadow.
Oh, yeah.
And now,
Not necessarily an apprentice. We're looking for a seasoned person, a seasoned comptroller, but Mr. Surpass makes it look easy because he's done it for so long, and he's just done a great job. And I think to have somebody to fall in behind him and let him show some of the things that we've found and some of the things that we're trying to do differently, I think is just very important for process control.
someone to come in and shadow him.
Yeah.
Part of your problem, and I know this is, we're restricted, is the salary's not where it needs to be. I can speak firsthand from experience from accounting industry. It's nowhere near where it needs to be to get a quality person.
Right.
It is what it is.
Yeah, it's hard for me to personally recruit. I've talked to people, and when I tell them the salary, they laugh.
Is that that's a
So
civil service?
it's something but that's part of what we're working in terms of how do we create a port comptroller, and we're going to have to do a position assessment and really justify, elevating that salary a little higher, because it's just not attracting the type of talent that we need. And we just had to do it, with the legal secretary at the last meeting. We had to actually increase that because, again, we had a couple of candidates that just wouldn't come. They wouldn't move our way for the salary that we were offering.
Can we go over the audit findings and the responses to them?
I don't have that with me. I mean, if you want to ask questions about them, I can walk you through. I know intimately where we are on all of those items.
Do you want a copy, go through it?
Sure, if you wanted.
In your book right there.
While you're doing that,
It'll be in the back of your book, the blue book.
Oh, you can give it to him.
Oh, your action letter. Well, findings will, yeah.
while you're doing that, real quick, what I gather is that as of today, revenues are on track the way they should be. We may be a little behind in the tariffs because of logistics. That the variances are on the expense side, and that we'll get a report as to the specifics of those variances by line item within a week, and then we
Yeah.
can make those public.
And-
Okay?
Yeah, because really quick, before we get off this, I'm very interested in the retirement. Why what is the actual is through what date? Like, this was printed when? Yesterday, today? Is it through?
This was through June 30th, 23.
Okay, yeah, because retirement is only at 20% of the budget, which, while salaries is at about just under 50. So you would think those would be correlation going together. So It's not just on, it's on page one, it's throughout the retirement. And then, the rentals, leases on buildings.
Okay.
What is that monthly rental that we're paying? Because we're already over budget there, and we're only halfway through the year.
Right, and so,
So I know I'm just, if
So
you
the
want
way-
to give me
so
a
the-
variance on that.
so you're talking on the revenue side?
No, on the page one of expenses. Rental, leases, buildings, it's budgeted at 95,000, we're already at 95,700. And if that's monthly or whatever, we're gonna be well over. So I'm just trying to figure out
Page, what it is on page?
page one of expenses, about 3/4 of the way down. 527,110.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I'll confirm what that is, but what I would like to point out is that when we're looking at this budget, the way that we look at our budget variances, we don't look at this line item. What we look at is that total on page 2,
I get that, but
right? So which we still have over $650,000. So though the variance is inside of there, we're
Correct.
still within the range. And that's how we look at our.
but everything else corresponds with where we're at.
Right.
If we're already at 50, or over our budget there, you're talking about possibility of being over 100,000 over budget by year end. If we keep up where we're going. You know what I'm saying? Because there's other things that we're already near budget.
I think this is one of the ones, don't we pay one of those leases annually?
And that's why I'm asking,
Yes.
is this
We
monthly?
pay a lot of the leases, like for the Popish building,
Yeah.
It's annual?
it's annual,
Okay.
but it's up front. We pay
Okay,
it
that's
at
why I
the
was
beginning of
asking,
the
is
year
this
for the
monthly?
entire
So
year.
that makes sense.
But this is actually a very good point that you're bringing up, because we don't look at that level, although we're looking for anything that might really stick out. What we're really looking at is at that total line on page 2.
I get that.
Right.
But, like I said, since it's paid up front,
Yes.
it's a little bit different. But if
Right.
it was paid monthly,
Right.
looking at it at the line item level, you could possibly be well over budget by year end. But if it's paid up front, then that changes things. That's why I was asking.
Right.
And I also can speak to the retirement. The reason there's so much in there is it's budgeted for the entire year for all positions,
Oh, yeah, all the vacancies.
all
Well,
vacancies.
well,
And we have 18 vacancies just in the ferry department, and then we had multiple departments. So it's as a whole, our entire manpower, you have to take each
Do
position
we remit the payments monthly or quarterly?
quarterly.
Probably, if I had to guess, it was, the second quarter was not processed yet. Because if you process the second quarter at 25,000, we'll be right on track.
Correct.
So that's what I was
Right.
getting at on that one. So that makes a little bit more sense that it was
Yes.
probably not processed yet.
No.
So that's why I was asking when the actual date was through. But if it's through 6/30, it
31st.
probably wasn't processed until July. Okay. Okay, Hava, you're up.
Okay, so obviously we had some findings in the audit, and what I did was I put together an action plan. And so the first two items here on the list, one of them was a finding, one of them was an observation, but it was timely bank reconciliation. We found that we had some bank reconciliations that had not been completed for I think March, April, and May. And then we also had a reconciliation that was completed, maybe, I think, last November, but wasn't dated that it was completed. So moving forward, everything that has been reconciled is dated. We had some problems because we converted with Regions Bank over to positive pay. And we ended up getting a lot of rejects from the bank. Like we would, send a check out, and it would end up getting rejected. And we went round and round, and it turned out to be a CSV file issue, and we were able to work through that issue. But we ended up with a bunch of duplicates, and it was a very tedious process. But Ms. Erica Brown and Ms. Brenda Lally, worked diligently. They worked through those issues with Tommy Surpass, And I can tell you, as of the 15th of this month, all of our bank statements were reconciled, and everything is up to date. It was dated, and so we are on track, with that reconciliation issue. And in terms of how do we stop that from happening in the future, we have instituted a weekly finance meeting behind our staff meeting, and it's really a 15 to 30-minute meeting just to verify that we're tracking on our reconciliations. The third item on here was timely bank deposits. We receive checks in the mail on a daily basis. Some days a little more than other days, and then some days we would bring the cash in from the ferries. Everything would be counted, and we wouldn't make a daily deposit to the bank. And that was just, it was considered not a best practice from our auditor, and we get it. So we have instituted a policy where, we are, number one, we only pick up our mails now Monday, Wednesday, and Thursday, and by 4 o'clock that same day, the mail or any checks that were received are actually deposited that day, and they're actually being logged on when the check was deposited to the bank with the deposit number, and then all of the cash from the ferry system is being deposited as well. So that item is now done, and that's an item that we're tracking on a weekly basis.
And that money is
now.
from where?
What's that?
The revenue is from where?
It may be from tariff revenue, where we build something. Let's say we receive a check from vendor number one for, $5,000 for the month, and it's a check. And so the question was, why is the check sitting in the office for 3 or 4 days? Why is it not going to the bank every day?
So what is the thought of moving to automatic payments?
Well, that's part of what we're working on now, and I can tell you we ran into a problem with Regions. In doing that, we fixed it. So we are trying to move in that direction, but not everybody wants to do that. But it is definitely, we'd like to be able to do it both ways, where we receive it and then we pay electronically as well.
Yeah. An electronic payment is recognized within a day, right?
Yeah, but again, not every customer and every vendor
Can do that.
can do that. So there are some customers that follow certain practices and some that don't. So we have to be flexible to go both ways.
And the procedure is all about when is it deposit, not when it clears the bank. It's
Right.
when it's deposit. If it's your banking institution, I think, is within 10 miles, it has to be within 1 day. If it's more than 10 miles, within 3 days. So it's a state procedure that
Yeah.
they have to do. Oh, yeah, I know a lot about that.
And our bank is so close to where we,
You have no excuse.
we have no excuse. It's next door. So Mondays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays, I shouldn't be saying this. I hope nobody hit us over the head and take the checks, but.
All right, we need to change our policy.
But, okay, so credit card statement, not reviewed and approved. This was something that we were hit before in the past. Look, we had a process where the credit card was just paid automatically every month, and we were verifying the credit card every month. And the auditor was able to point out that there were some months where maybe that check process happened after it was paid. It's not a best practice to do that. So we've cut off the automatic payment. Regions was not happy that we cut it off, but we explained why we had to do it. And now we're reconciling by the 10th, and on the 15th, as we all sit and look at each other, our bank accounts and credit card accounts will be completely reconciled, and we'll be talking about that on a weekly basis.
We paid them over $2,000 for bank services, and they don't want to do what we wanted.
Well, what I would tell you is they have been very helpful, and once we talked about why, they totally got it. And look, I would like to get back to the automatic payment if we can expedite our process, so if we can assure that we reconcile those credit cards, let's say by the 5th working day of every month, and it's paid automatically by the 10th. Once we know that that process is under control, I think it'll be okay to shift back. But the observation was we had days where, that reconciliation was just done too late and it was already paid. And the concern was, well, maybe we may be overpaying something that we shouldn't be paying for.
Manpower issue as well. That was because that department was vacated. There was a manpower.
That's right. We had a manpower issue. I mean, it was in the finance department, and that was the issue. So, but it is something that we're focused on. The budgeting, the budget amendment. We just talked about the interagency fees. We talked about how it happened in 22, which triggered us to look at 23, and we're making that introduction for 23 next week. And what we've asked of the parish is if they see that there's going to be any other adjustments, that they let us know so that we can make sure that we can adjust our budget accordingly. So that issue will be complete. It'll be in front of the council next week. Same thing with the CEA. I think those of you who were here last year, you probably remember there was a finding in the 21 audit that the port and the parish needed to have a CEA to be moving cash from the port to the parish. Well, it turns out the port and parish had one from 2013, and it had not expired. But, we want to follow the best practices. So we took that 2013 CEA, we brought it up to date to reflect what we're currently doing, the percentages, and what, how we're aligning that with the budget. And so that is now resolved as well, where we've made that introduction. And we're voting on that next week?
It's going to be introduced.
It's going to be introduced, are we? Okay, so we're introducing it at the next meeting.
No, it's on the agenda.
It's on the agenda.
Right.
We did introduce it.
Yeah, we introduced it already, so we're voting.
So we'll be
We're going to be voting on it, yes.
sorry.
So the report says that we did not have a CEA, but we actually do have an old one from 2013. Is that correct?
That's correct. And again, I talked with the auditor about that, and we agreed to disagree because we did have one.
Okay.
But her point was valid that, it was a 10-year-old CEA.
Right.
So we, we went ahead and made that update, and we moved forward with it. Somehow there was one property in 22 that was purchased without an appraisal in the Piano Keys. And we're getting different stories about that, and I don't think we ever really came to a conclusion other than it was below market value. There was no appraisal required. But what I can assure you, every property that has taken place this year and since December, we've had at least one appraisal, but a lot of them we've had 2 appraisals. And I think we're getting ready to have, we had one that we had 3, and we may have another one where we have 3 appraisals. So we've tightened our process down, and we under any circumstances will we, engage in a purchase sale agreement and not have appraisal in place. Failure to comply with the Louisiana revised statute regarding ethics training and prevention of sexual harassment. This finding and observation I do not agree with, and I agree to disagree with the auditor. Essentially, we had an employee who was an executive that started in November who had not taken the sexual harassment training effective the audit. Now, the best practices with the state says you have to take it within 12 months. So when it was pointed out, the individual took the training, the mandatory training within the 10th month. the best practice is within 12 months. The auditor and I had a very healthy conversation about this, and what we agreed to do was change our policy to say that within 30 days of hiring on in the future, everybody will take sexual harassment training. So we're current now with that particular individual, and we will be current with all of our sexual harassment training by the end of this month, our ethics training, and our cybersecurity training by the end of this month. So we take this very seriously, but again, I believe, and I disagree that it should not have been on the report, primarily because the port at the time was in a state of chaos, and we were changing executive staff, we were changing port commissions, and so there was a lot of issues there, but the training took place within 12 months of employment.
So, Christie, you said something. Is this in the same line as what
This
we
is for
talked?
2023.
I
Yes,
know
we
we
have to
took-
do that every year for elected officials and all employees.
So we need to send you something?
Yes, I believe your office may have already.
Yeah. I know it took, and I through the
A lot
government.
of you will take the ethics at the police jury when you go, but we also have to have sexual harassment training and cybersecurity.
Okay, thank you. I thought that's what it was about.
Yes, it's a state mandated training.
So I did take that at the police jury. Was I supposed to send that to you, or do
Yes.
they send it to
We
you?
would appreciate it.
Yes,
Okay.
you are.
Because if we don't have it, and it's asked for, it could be a finding or an observation. So it is something that we're being very aggressive with moving forward. One of the other items was, a question about whether we had a sexual harassment policy, and it wasn't posted on our website. Well, it was known that the port has had a sexual harassment policy, and it's a very good policy, and it had never been posted on the website. That was a finding or an observation. And we have since made some updates to it, and it is now on our website.
So,
And if anybody wants to see it, you go to our website, and you will be able to see that policy.
so as an auditor, we can agree to disagree, but the law says it has to be completed within that calendar year. That's why I know it's within the 12 months of the employment, but it has to be completed within the calendar year unless they're less than 30 days of employment so far. So since they start in November,
Right.
that's why. So technically you can take it in December and then turn around and take it in January. You meet both years back to back right away. It's one of those silly state things, but that's why it has to be within calendar year.
Yeah, well, thank you very
So-
much. And what I would say is the employee who started in a hostile environment and had not really made any real
Yeah, I know. I
engagement in the port through HR in that period of time, because there's a lot of hostility between the commission and the staff.
Yeah, I understand. And changing the policy to the 30 days will solve that problem.
It's part of our new onboarding
Yeah.
with my department.
Yeah.
And then we've already completed our annual report, and we'll make sure that we get that done. And then there was a question about meal, our meal policy. Look, the port has a very thin staff, and we oftentimes work through lunch and have working lunches with an agenda, with meetings. Many of those meetings have included council members. We buy lunch. There was a question on whether or not we were having too many lunches. Every lunch was documented. The individuals who participated were included on the list, and there were no purchased items that were prohibited. But what we've agreed to is to monitor that. I mean, though I agreed to disagree with the auditor, she was very articulate in why. And so what we've done since is every meeting, a working meeting that we have, we're making sure that we have an agenda and a sign-in sheet, and that we don't have any prohibited items like alcohol or anything like that. And none of those items had taken place. So it's just really kind of an administrative, action where we just need to tighten up our processes. And moving right along. Information technology, disaster plan. We actually do have a IT disaster plan in our hurricane plan, but, you know, it was a good observation. And we've created some other procedures that Mr. Jalen Brown is working on finalizing, and we're integrating that with what we have that's existing. And look, we know that we're going to get hit by hurricanes. You know, we know that, you know, we could have a cybersecurity attack, so we have to have, you know, better policies and procedures. So we're moving forward with that. And then the last item, we didn't have a theft insurance bond / policy, and the port's never had that before. And as a matter of fact, this question had been asked. It was even asked the previous year, and the policy that we provided was accepted in 21, but it was not accepted in 22. But it's, you know, it's a good practice. We've since, did we finalize?
We're working on the numbers from Tommy. He's working on those. A lot of it is audit figures that we were waiting for the final audit figures. They ask for things in the application for the theft policy. And so we're going to provide them with a copy of the audit and the numbers that they're asking for. So the application is probably 60% complete.
So, I mean, so
It's not
that,
a very expensive policy to have,
Right.
but we're never asked to have one, so now we will.
yeah, so we learned a lot in this audit process as a team, and we will be better prepared for it next year. But more importantly, this is why we're going to be working on a process control system so that, you know, we can better align everybody in the entity. So if a sexual harassment certificate is asked for, we know where they're all in there by name. We can go and get whoever's name. You know, whatever needs to be on the website, we're making sure it's on the website. We will have control over who puts it there, who manages it, and probably most importantly, you know, that's why we're focused on getting a comptroller in. So we will be working, you know, diligently every week, you know, on tracking those finances, talking about them in our weekly meeting, and also making sure that we give a little more details in our commission meetings, you know, to show that we are looking closely. And I can't tell you, I am going to be so happy when we get a comptroller here and, you know, we can, you know, transition into a different direction. So that concludes. Did you have any questions, Mr. Kognovich?
I just wanted the people to know, and us, if we had any questions, we could ask.
Okay.
And would you publish this on the website? Mid-year review?
Sure, yes. Sure. We'll do that, and then we'll put those variances with it just to show, you know, exactly where they were.
Well, one other question, not about the budget, but got a letter, I guess all of us did, from Woodall. Are you going to meet with him too? Or
Yeah, we got that, right? Yeah, we got the letter. You know, it came in yesterday, and I shared it with Melissa. I read over it briefly, and I was really trying to get this presentation done. I did meet with one landowner this morning. You know, we have kind of an action item on there. But Melissa and I, did you want to make a comment?
Oh, yeah.
I hadn't taken any action yet.
I've reached out to Jacob and Suzanne with Dwyer Cambry, so we're working together to address Mr. Woodall's concerns.
And I had talked to him yesterday. I gave him a call just to find out his concerns, and I think they were, you know, they were hoping to get a little more because I think they purchased some property, and it's, you know, of course it's in Belchase, so it's going to be a lot more.
Yeah.
So, all right, but you know, looking forward to hearing from you.
Yes, absolutely.
So, I think that concludes an explanation and of any questions we had. I'd like to open the floor for public comment.
Thank you.
Donald Valheim, Belchase. Gentlemen, I'm still totally confused, as I said earlier. Since December of last year, the monthly meeting has been showing that there's a budget review variance report every month. And because of the fact that Mr. Tillerson was new, we had lost some personnel, we all kept putting it off and putting it off. We weren't going to address it, give him time to get his feet wet. Tommy was hired by the staff, unbeknownst to you all, that he was not going to come to the council meeting and explain the budget, as it's been done in the past. This is a budget review meeting to look at the financial operations of this agency. Mr. Schultz, I don't know if you want to answer it, but I said there's three members here that have attended in the past years these budget meetings. And this is not a budget meeting, by the way. This is not it's a feel-good meeting. You and I have been to the port before. You are an auditor, CPA. Does this feel good? And it's a budget review? I don't know if you want to comment on that, Mr. Schultz, but it's your profession in this thing. I can't attest to these other men and ladies. Three of you all have been here last year. This is not a budget review. And to sit there again and say, we'll take it on advisement, you only got 5 minutes to talk. We didn't get to review it. We didn't get to see a budget. We didn't see the operations of variance reports. We didn't look at the operations in conjunction with the line items here. Y'all did another feel-good thing. And it's embarrassing. Y'all talk about what this former council, that it was a sham. People didn't want to come to Belchase because of what this council did. It's worse now than it's ever been. You cut the public off. You don't let them talk. You don't communicate with them. You say, talk about it afterwards. I mean, honestly, if y'all work for me, I'd fire y'all. But you don't work for me. But you do in one way because we're citizens. We are the taxpayers. And you should represent us fully. And you should go through the review. I know all y'all personally, to some extent, not Councilwoman. I've talked with y'all. I think you want to do it right. I just don't know if you know how to do it right. I mean, I'm not going to say, Mr. Schultz knows, I ran an audit department at a bank. I know what we need to do. And Mr. Tillson's trying to do good, okay? I can't find him fault with anything except he doesn't have a controller. He's not qualified to present a budget and a line item budget review. He's bad enough to Tommy kind of tell him what's there. He's done a pretty good job figuring it out, Charles. I mean, in there. But you're not letting the public talk about anything. We're not even reviewing the budget. Balance sheets, reports. You got a copy of this letter that was sent to you all that he just read off and explanations to it. For the most part, most of the findings in there weren't worth the paper they're written on. It's trivial from an overview standpoint. It's processes, and it's a process. You shouldn't be afraid of an auditor. An auditor does a good job and points out the findings and exceptions that you have according to the rules. This state's ethics rules, it's rules about sexual harassment, all that, very complicated. You all got to go through that as well. I've been going through it for years. One hand says you can do this, the other hand says you can't do that. You need to know all that. You need an attorney with you about everything you're doing. They need a counsel on that. But we're looking for a budget. And I guess the question is, when are we going to review the budget? You, Mr. Chairman, and Mr. Schultz, committed to me that we were going to finally give him some time, let Tommy get to it, and we're going to go through this and look at it. We're here. We came to the meeting. The press came to listen to it. Nobody else cares about it in the parish. I would hope you all would care about it, this thing for the public, and look at the budget line item. The detail is the numbers are in the detail, and whether it's good or bad. And look, I know some of you guys aren't accountants, and you don't want to be accountants by any means. And it's not a career that you'd probably start over again, even though you're the fireman it is, something like that.
Go back to aviation.
The meeting is a budget review. When are we going to see the budget and the variances on there? It helps. It is a management tool that you use to guide yourselves. And if you don't look at those numbers, you have no idea. They've been spending money, and you've been spending money like it's going out of style. The last meeting I heard, now we're going to buy the yeast plant down the road. Where's the money coming from? What's the revenue forecast? Who's delinquent? We used to look at delinquent reports. I'd like a little bit more time. I'm go on for a long time. I'd like you to waive your policy relative to
You can do that in
5
2
minutes.
minutes.
I'm sorry?
2 minutes.
Can the public get a copy of the budget and the budget variance report? Can you all review it?
We're going to put it on the
Well, we're going
website.
to put it on the website, and I don't believe that we have ever received a public information request from Ms. Ballet on any of the financials, ever. Now, maybe I'm missing something. Have you? So
No,
these reports have been available for the last 3 months, every month.
I have not made a public records request for a meeting that's going to take place in a public open meeting that these members, councilmen, were going to do a review of it. Do they have to have a public records request on everything that goes on in this parish?
We're going to put it on the website.
I do have an, I
Yes,
don't
ma'am.
know if this is on the website, but I do have in front of me what is,
Wait. It will be put on the website. And then you've got about a minute and a half.
You know, that really doesn't satisfy a review, public review. That's what this meeting was. That's what you all are charged with as responsible council members. Chris, I'm going to put you on the spot. Would you accept any of this as a review?
I would have liked more, but I mean, we do have what you're asking for up here. So that will be out on the website. So
the public can ask.
And you heard me ask a couple questions on line item by line item. So, but yeah, it will be on the website. And at the next meeting, when we get, I mean, you have a right to, when we go financial report in the agenda, to ask any questions you want, that based on what's on, goes on the website.
Wasn't that what we were here today to do?
I'll
put you on the spot. You're my friend.
Like I said, I mean,
yeah.
I will, I have up here, but maybe next time, maybe we need copies out in the audience. For next time, next year, Charles, think about, have a couple copies where people can have it, where they can ask the questions.
Mark,
Thought.
what have you done in the past?
Well, I know we used to get a binder a lot bigger than this,
Yeah.
and we went through it. We didn't go page, but I got mine in the car, but in the parishes is a lot bigger, but
Exactly.
we didn't go page for page, but, you know, like I said, he asked a couple questions on the ones we do have, and I did too, the over budgeted. And
No one's trying to harm the operations, what's going on. You know, thank you. I just,
we have one just for
more dialogue. I'm sorry. It's over? Okay.
Mr. Valley, I'm going to disagree with you about you talking about the public, silencing the public. By no means is that where we want.
I didn't understand what
By
you
silencing the public, not letting them speak. I am one, I encourage. I spoke to you at a meeting before. I asked you to come, when you come to the meetings, you come to all the meetings. Pick some people up, bring them to the meetings. We want to hear from the public. We want to know. We want to know. Believe me, I hear when I get my phone calls from constituents in my district, and I deal with them on a daily basis as needed. But look, nobody up here on this board is here to do anything to not inform the public. We want to hear. You guys are the you the public. You have a right to know. You do. You have a right to know and you right to think. So this board is not here to silence anybody or keep. We're just trying to do the business of the council in a more efficient way. It's a different way. Some people don't like doing things differently, but that's what we think. But by no means is it any intent of silencing anybody or not listening to anybody. Please, I'm saying that to the public while they're listening. So please,
Ronnie, I appreciate that. I'll take
Thank you.
exception to that. Disagree with it. Okay.
Yeah.
I think Mr. McCarty than myself.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Valley, I want to say that this report right here does have a list of the revenues and expenses. It doesn't say income statement, but of course, an accountant, a person with basic accounting knowledge, knows how to extrapolate this and fill out an income statement and a balance sheet. And the computer system could probably print that out from the information that's on this paper that I have in front of me, what I'm saying.
It'll be on the website.
Yeah, it's going to be on the website. And as far as
Variance
projections
report
go,
to budget is just what it is. And normally, you'd only look at any variances and question the variance if it's more than 3 to 5% out of line, which you accept the policy. But anyway, that's your business.
okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good luck, guys.
I was just going to say, if it was just a summary, I would not have been pleased, but we did get line item by line item, and I did ask some questions. Again, maybe make a note for next year, have a couple copies, or put it on the website before the meeting where the public can look at it and have questions. Again, Charles, with his staff, currently without a comptroller, I mean, this is the first one he's done, a mid-year budget review as port director. What? Okay, well, I'm just saying, if it was Charles, it's the first one, and we also don't have a comptroller, so I'm not upset because I got this, but again, maybe make notes for next year, and then I think it's fine. And then who is going to be presenting the budget for the budget adoption in October, November?
We hope it'll be our comptroller, but it may very well be me.
Okay, that's why I was. If we don't have a comptroller, will Mr. Surpass be here, or is it just going to be you?
It'll be me.
Okay, that's all I want to know.
If we don't have a comptroller, Mr. Surpass is going to have to bring me up to speed quickly, and we'll try to duplicate what we did last year.
Okay, and again, this will be on the website.
But
And-
we have had mid-year budget reviews in the last 4 years.
At the parish level, not at the port.
What level?
On the parish side, I've been with the port for 10 years, and we've never had a mid-year budget review.
Done it every year I've been here. One with the parish and one with the port.
We have budget hearings in November every year,
Budget.
but not a mid-year in July.
Mr. Henry.
Yeah. Hey, look, Ronnie, you keep saying y'all don't hold nothing back from the public. But we had a meeting today. You all had the information. The public had any information. Did we have any information? Zero.
No, you're correct. You didn't have.
Right.
You're right. I'm not-
So how were we going to ask any questions? That's all I'm saying. You know what I'm saying? I'm just being real. If we want to be transparent and don't give that perception that we're hiding something, let the public, let them view it. Let them view it. It's a public meeting. Government is public. You guys got the final vote, but it also should be there for the people to observe and look at too, so they could make their observation on it. And I know you guys sit back there and you think that people they don't have a lot of people here, but a lot of people watches it. I come because I've been coming there for like 40, 50, 45 years, man. Every time we had a budget hearing, it might have been out of hand a little bit, but you had the information. You had the information, And I've seen it with that SP contract. Man, that's a perception that people are getting that you're hiding. But you're saying you got transparency. Saying is doing, they're not looking at it that way, man. And I'm sitting back there, I'm telling you it's real. What you seeing back there, you behind the desk. You got the information. We don't. I'm just being real. Just being real, my man. You know what I'm saying? And if we're gonna say it's transparent, let it be transparent. But don't say it's transparent when only one party has the information. The other party, which is the public, don't. You know? That's all I'm saying. And Mr. Tillerson, I hope you get your controller, man. Hope you get your controller. What I'm gonna do with it now? The meeting is over. You see what I'm saying? It makes my point.
You can call. I answer my phone all the time, Mr. Henry. At 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, please call me.
Right. You just don't get it, man.
Anyone else? Motion? Motion. Adjourn? Who is it? Motion
Second.
by Newsom and a second by McCarty. Machine is open. And the meeting is adjourned. 7 yeses, 2 District 1 and 2 absent. At 5:33.